and welcome to the Majorly Undecided podcast. I'm your host, Kat Klaus. I'm the CEO and founder of March Consulting, where we help students with college admissions. And on our podcast, we talk about different majors and possibilities for high school students and college students. Up until now, we've done interviews with professionals about their stories and their skill sets and how that translated into the career that they're currently in. And we will continue to do that. Today, however, I wanted to address the major myths that I hear students tell me about your career or about your major. And I've heard professionals say this as well, but I think it's important that we address this. So for students who are undecided, before you invest the next 4 years or more of your life and thousands of dollars in tuition on one major or subject area, you should spend a little bit of time making sure that you're investing in something that's going to make you happy. I see too many students investing time and money on a major that is guaranteed to make them rich, only later to find out that they hate their jobs. And how do I know this? Well, if you haven't listened to the introduction episode of the podcast, you know that's because that's exactly what I did. I don't want you to fall into this same cycle. So I'm going to address the biggest myths and traps about choosing your major and how you can avoid them. Myth number 1, my major will be my career. I've heard this so many times, and I believed this as a college student too. When I was looking at different majors, I thought veterinary science because veterinary science means that I'm going to be a veterinarian. I hear a lot of students that are choosing engineering because they will become an engineer. The problem with this is that when you get to other majors like communications, which is what I switched to, you don't become a communicator. Right? The communications field breaks up into a whole bunch of different areas. And so the short answer to this myth is no, your major will not be your career. I'm a walking example of that. My communications major was with an emphasis in digital film and video. It trained me well in classes for my major, but it wasn't my career. I mean, it could have been. I could have gone into broadcast or journalism, but that didn't make me immediately unemployable the moment I stepped out looking at careers in my major. In fact, having the skills that I have translated well to a whole bunch of other careers. I've seen engineers teach, business majors make movies, and doctors invent new technologies. Your major is not your career. Your major will help you specialize in a field and gain skills. That's it. And will those skills translate to a career? That's really up to you. And so I don't want you to go out and look at all the majors that a college offers or that your college offers and look to see what directly translates to a career that you recognize. Engineer, teaching, medical. Because as you start to look into those industries, you'll see, just like I said, it breaks up into a whole bunch of different career fields, some of which might not match you very well, some of which might, and then some of which you've probably never heard of, and that's okay. Myth number 2. This will be what I do for the rest of my life. I have to, at 18 or 21 years old, pick what I'm going to do for the next 60 to 70 years of my life. And if I don't like it, too bad. That's what I'm going to stick with. Not true at all. In fact, most adults that I know have had, at a minimum, 2 careers already over the course of their lifetime. I'm on my 4th. You're going to have to determine what you're going to do with your life, not your major. So instead of focusing on that label of your major, focus on the skills that you want to gain. You don't have to be a computer science major to learn how to code. In fact, you can learn how to code for free online in your spare time. And you also don't have to be a business major to learn marketing. You can take classes in marketing and gain those skills. And in fact, if you're looking into the arts, if you're looking to be an actress or an artist or a graphic designer or a musician or anything arts related, I would highly encourage you to take some business classes because those are skills you're going to need to be a successful professional artist. You're going to need to manage your brand and know how to market yourself and know how to create your own business around your art. Myth number 3, my major will determine how much money I make. Again, this is a whopper. Your major won't determine your salary. You determine your salary. Your major isn't a magical being that's going to zap you into a salary range. I mean, I wish it was that easy, but it's not. You're going to determine how you market what you can do, what experiences you have, and how that translates to a job. So if you've heard from a lot of people, oh, history, what are you going to do with that? You do have to think outside the box a little bit more and dive deeper into that field and that industry and see what is available to you. If you're an expert in a certain decade and you're selling books and you're doing lectures and you're a specialist and the Smithsonian hires you, you're probably going to make a lot more money than you think that you're going to make. Now, that requires research on your part. It requires work on your part, but you're the one that's going to determine your salary, not the job that you have. Now, as I say that, I do realize that there are jobs that start out at higher salaries and a little bit more guaranteed, but I don't want you to be limited at that. If you want to make $150,000 a year, you have to be this profession. Not necessarily true. There are students across the board in many different career paths and majors and skill sets who have made less or more than that. So it's a puzzle. You have to put all these pieces together. You can't rely on just one thing. Oh, automatically I'm going to make that amount of money. Myth number 4, I have to determine what I'm going to major in right this second or like yesterday. Like I need to make that decision right now because I need to know how to proceed. In fact, the most common reason for changing your major is because you were rushed into your first decision. I mean, I was, and a lot of my friends were. Everyone I work with now has changed their major at least once. However, part of that was because we randomly picked something based on a few different factors. And those factors were how much money we were going to make, what sounded interesting and what adults would give us feedback about. So when I said veterinarian, everybody would be like, oh, that's nice to be a veterinarian. If I said I loved history, everybody said, well, what are you going to do with that? So I was like, well, naturally, I'm going to do veterinary science, right? And then a lot of that is also based on what people say you should do. You're good at arguing, you should be a lawyer. You're really good at math, you should be an engineer. You're really good at video production, you should be a film major. But these passing comments, I think, are more damaging because you start to believe that. Oh, I'm good at arguing, so I should be a lawyer, whether or not I actually am interested in law. Oh, I'm good at math, I should be an engineer, whether or not I'm actually interested in being an engineer and going through that coursework and building things, right? So I actually think that's a little bit more damaging. You're not going to make any of these mistakes, and this is why. You don't have to determine what you're doing right now. What you do have to start doing is taking action to gathering more data so you can make a better decision. You will eventually have to decide. You're going to have to take some chances. And I think you've learned that if you've listened to some of our interviews, is that people start out on one path and they make different choices that create another path that they didn't know existed yet. So you don't have to determine what you're going to do right now. You do have to start taking action. Myth number 5. If you're not in science, technology, engineering, and math, commonly known as STEM, you're unemployable. Oh, I hear this all the time. Especially for us poor people who have strengths in humanities types of skills like writing or English. The most common thing that we hear is English. What are you going to do with that? You can be a teacher. Is that what you're going to do with your English major, right? You could actually replace English with any liberal arts major, so art, history, anthropology, etc., etc., etc. It's not true. You're learning skills that translate to a wide variety of different fields. And the same thing with STEM. So just because you have a STEM major doesn't mean that you're going to get a job. In fact, we've seen a lot of unemployed scientists and engineers because they thought their major was their ticket to employment. And it's not true. Again, it's your skills and what you can do that will get you a job. And what you can do translate to the experiences you have, what you can bring to a job. It's not what's on your diploma, period. Now, there are certain things that you need to have. Like if you're going to go into a certain field, they will require you to have certain skills or programming or, knowledge in that area. But that's part of this discovery process is if you're looking at a particular career right now, you should be looking at job postings for that area. And what are they asking? Do you have to have a certain degree? Or is it more based on skills and experience? And what you'll probably find is it's more based on skills and experience. You don't have to be a STEM major to get a job. You don't have to be a STEM major to make a lot of money. Now, if you're interested in STEM and science and building things and engineering and math or computer science, I don't want to discourage you. That is amazing. Focus on experiences. Focus on getting the best experiences you can, more certificates or skills, learn to code, go really deep into that area. If you're really into medical, you should be doing everything that you can to get some shadowing experiences with doctors, to maybe do a little bit of research or start learning more of those advanced sciences that you're going to need, following maybe some medical journals and reading up about the cool studies and the advances in technology, or maybe you're volunteering at a hospital. You should be getting as many experiences as possible. Myth number 6, general education requirements will help me determine what I should major in. I hear this a lot for students who are undecided. They say, I'm just going to go to community college and I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do because they're going to have me take a lot of classes. And what happens is that you decide that you really like your psychology class because the subject matter is interesting and your professor is really cool. And then you decide to be a psychology major. But you're not looking at the bigger picture as to what do psychology majors do? How does that translate into different careers? And how does my skill set align with that? And so a lot of students will put everything on hold and expect that the classes they're going to take the first 2 years of college will feed that. And while at some point you probably will pick something that you're interested in because you've been exposed to all these classes, it's a very passive way to approach determining what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I don't want you to pick your major basis on one class that you liked. I want you to focus on the skills that you're learning from those classes and what you need to learn. There's not going to be like a red blinking arrow as you're walking down the street one day that tells you what to major in. You have to be proactive and you have to work to find what you want to do. And that's why you're here, right? So if you're interested in psychology, you really like the psychology class, the next step is to talk to your psychology professor about how this translates into different fields. And then from there, take all of that information and dig even deeper. Start job shadowing, start exploring. But don't just say, oh, I like this one psychology class, now I'm going to be a psychology major. Because what will happen is senior year, you'll start to panic and you'll be like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I want to be a therapist. I don't know if I want to go into clinical work. I don't know if I want to go into research. When you had 4 years to start working on your own, using the resources you had available to you. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. So those are some of the biggest myths that I hear from students. And the main theme from them is don't let yourself get locked up in this is what I have to do, and I have to determine it right now, and this is the only way I'm going to make money, and this is the only way I'm going to get a job. The main theme is you have to figure out what you're really good at and what you like, and then go out and start taking action, start exploring. The last thing I'm going to leave you with today, especially for my students that are they're just not sure as to what they want to do, period, is sometimes finding out what you don't want to do is just as powerful as finding out what you do want to do. And what I mean by that is if you decide that you really liked your psychology class in high school or in college, and you start going down this path, and you start taking this action in job shadowing, and you decide it's not right for you, that's not a failure. What that is more information for you to discover what you do like. You originally started that you really liked this subject. So dig a little bit deeper into what you liked about it. And that's going to require a little bit of soul searching. It's going to require you a little bit of questioning the why of everything. But now you know that you don't want to be a therapist or a clinician or anything like that, right? Maybe you want to manage that. Maybe you want to do more research, or maybe you want to translate that interest in how people think and why they behave the way they do into maybe a business realm where you're doing advertising or marketing, right? But you wouldn't know that unless you went down that path and you started exploring. And so even if you discover that you don't like something, that's getting you closer to discovering what you do like. And that's what I want to leave you with today. Because with myths and what we're being told, there's a lot of anxiety and fear that you have to know right now, and you have to have everything figured out. And you can't do that unless you start taking action. And so we're hoping with our podcast and on our website that we're providing you more resources to guide you in doing just that. Is what action can you take now to save you time and tears later? Again, don't do what I did. I promise you, it was everything that needed to happen to get me where I am now to help you. But if I have done it differently, if I would have had somebody like me telling me now, my whole life would have been different. And hindsight's 20/20, as they say. But if I can do just one little thing to help you along, then I've succeeded in my goal to help you. That's it for today. Those are our major myths that we hear from students. We will have more interviews to come and more tips like this. If you have any questions, if you want us to center an episode around a certain major or career field or question, please reach out to us. Our email is info@majorlyundecided.com. You can also reach out to us on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we are on Instagram. And then finally, if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review. And until next episode, take some action. Don't be scared. Do a little bit of research. That's it. We'll see you next time.